the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is Tuesday, February 25th. Disc golf is back, baby. Pro disc golf starts this weekend. Friday, we've got the Spring Flight Open kicking off. Thursday, we've got the All-Star competition just to kind of wet your whistle to get you ready for the weekend. Josh, it's been a long off-season. Feel like we've been kind of just like treading water here for 3 weeks. It's time to go. And I'm already seeing the hype starting to build up for the Olympus course. You know, people talking about this course is actually still underrated. It might be one of the best courses on tour. Are you excited to get things going this week?
Oh, absolutely. It's been so long and I am ready to go. And Olympus is such a nice starting point. You know, it is intriguing. It's technical. It's not like any other course we play on tour. And so having that kind of pop off right at the beginning, I think is always just, it's a great bit. I love the place on the schedule. I think the tour got instantly better when they made this change, and I'm excited to get started this week.
I am too. It's going to be so much fun. We got a lot to do this week because we got to get you ready for the tournament, of course. But we've also got to kind of talk about the big picture 2025, a little bit of a season preview. So we're going to get into all of that starting today. And let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in here. I want to just hit the top 5 storylines going into 2025. What's on your mind? What are we thinking about as we get ready for the year? Josh, I'll let you go first. I think we can start with number 1. Like, what is the biggest story coming into the season in your mind?
I think the one that's on everybody's mind, it's got to be Gannon versus the world. You had what was a top 5 season out of Gannon Burr last year, and he is left now with, I mean, all that's left on that resume is a world championship, and he's obviously going to be shooting for that. But it's so interesting because you saw it in the same season that we also had breakout seasons from other players, where you had Anthony Barella get his first win and then get 3 more with it. You had Nicholas Antala get his first win. You had Ricky, who was just second place Gannon over and over and over, who probably would have had in his own right a top 5 season without Gannon there. And so it really is, to me, the question of, does Gannon continue, or do we see a little bit more of kind of a regression and the others continue to either stay the same level or upgrade? Because all of those guys had impressive seasons in their own right, but obviously, even combined, I don't know if they quite rival Gannon's in terms of just the sheer number of wins that he had last season. And so it's going to be interesting to see, but, you know, Gannon's on top of the mountain right now. Or is anybody able to pull him off?
It just feels like the overwhelming, like, it's hard to believe that he was the consensus number 1 pick in fantasy drafts around the country this year, right? He went first in our draft. A couple people, listeners, sent me their drafts. He was generally the first pick over Kristen. And I think it's logical because it's like Kristen maybe isn't going to play quite as much as Gannon will. But right. Even so, like, a player as dominant as Kristen has been now for like 3 seasons, not getting picked first overall is a testament to just how good Gannon is and how good people think he will be this year.
In honestly, the deeper division too.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Let's go to this, a continental rivalry in FPO, because you have the strength of Europe, which has only been getting stronger. Mm-hmm. You know, you look at Evelina has her best season as a player last year. Of course, we have Kristen leading the pack for not only the entire division, but also Europe. And then you have, you know, can Henna figure out the putt? Can Silva continue to climb at the pace that she's been climbing, because she's been super good? But then over on the U.S. side, you have, you know, Missy Gannon, Owen Scoggins, Holland Handley, Ella Hansen. There's a lot of strong players over there as well. It does feel like things have tilted towards the Europeans. I know that, you know, a European didn't win Pody this year, but I think that's a little bit because of the nature of how the scoring was done for the Pro Tour. I think most people, if they just picked, would probably pick Kristen. But I think it's a very interesting top of FPO. And, maybe once you get down past 10 deep, it starts to become less interesting. But the top 10 is super interesting. And like, who will reign supreme this year? And, kind of a prelude to the World Games coming up in a few months that can literally choose the best country in a different kind of format.
Listen, I want President's Cup this year to just be 5v5 FPO. That's it. I don't need the MPO players. They can go do their own thing. They can caddy for the FPO players for all I care. I want President's Cup to be 5v5 FPO because it truly feels like an equilibrium right now. I don't know who I would pick in a head-to-head 5v5 match. And that is just a testament to how competitive that division is. And you're right. After 10, the division falls off pretty quick in terms of, I don't think anybody else.
So does MPO though. If we're being honest.
Agreed. I agree. Yes.
I think the relative strength in MPO is higher, but
I think the weird part about MPO,
the 10 to 20 range is more likely to win a tournament in MPO,
yes,
but they're not substantially more competitive.
You also have like some names in MPO that hang out below the top 10, like just outside of that, like you're like, oh, like this player could and probably should be a top 10. Whereas FPO, like I don't expect, right. The top 10 feels pretty locked to me for the most part. Right. And it's harder to break into that and become a perennial contender. But yeah, no, I think this rivalry is going to be fascinating. It's gotten better. It's going to keep getting interesting. And Evelina upgrading, Silva upgrading, like both just have turned this into a true continental rivalry. Thrilled to watch it. Speaking of continents, Charlie, this is their year. Worlds in Europe, baby. Let's go. 2 majors. First time world championship goes to Europe. And doesn't it feel fitting that we have Nicholas, who wins an MPO Elite Series event here over in the United States. You have FPO players like Evelina, who wins Worlds and just continue to upgrade and continue to play at a higher level. And it feels like it is the Worlds in Europe waited for this moment when there is a very legitimate chance that there are 4 majors up for grabs, or four titles essentially, 2 MPO, 2 FPO, and there is, I don't think that it is, it's not likely, but if 3 of them walked away with European winners, Nicholas wins European Disc Golf Festival and or Bino, or I mean, it's not a long course. Those guys can play there. They could totally hang at that course, and FPO winning both of them, It could be a really spectacular European trip for the Europeans, and boy, am I excited to watch it.
I feel like we've been building to this moment for a long time. You've had the ascent of some of the European disc brands, right? You think about what Discmania has been able to do in the United States. What Latitude is maybe beginning to do, and certainly driven by Kristen's success, becoming more prominent in the U.S. But they have homegrown an incredible community of disc golf in Europe, and I think it's growing way faster in Europe right now, disc golf, than in the U.S. And I think we're going to see record-setting crowds at Worlds all time. We will have never seen more people at Worlds than we will see this year. That is my prediction. I don't know if it's necessarily all that bold, but I mean, you got people spending $15,000 on a package that was like a throwaway concept that UC was like, I mean, might as well try it. And then they sold out because there's just an excitement about this. And there should be, because you have seen European players. It's not that long ago when Europe was just an afterthought. When this podcast got started in 2017, there was basically no relevant players from Europe. Like you had, I think at that time, Evelina and Henna were super, super young, maybe just starting to get known on tour. And then, but we saw a win here and there. Evelina, I think, won in 2018 for the first time. I may be underselling Henna and Evelina's like presence in 2017, but it was not like MPO. It was non-existent. It felt like, and now we're at the point where like Nicholas is winning, and you have players getting better in Europe and then coming onto tour and like looking like legit pros. And then obviously with Kristen's ascent, I mean, Europe has basically taken over in FPO. So I just think it feels right that it's finally going to Europe. For me, it's maybe a year or two too late in some ways, but on the other hand, like it does set up better, right? You have Nicholas having now like had his best season ever. Evelina has her best season ever, and now the tournament's in Finland.
Yeah.
So I think this is it's going to be an awesome summer. I will have some reservations, right? Back-to-back majors a week apart is going to be awkward.
That is.
There's no way around it. Like we're all going to see the first one at European Disc Golf Festival as kind of like a appetizer. Mm-hmm. It will not feel the same and have the same weight as Worlds. It wouldn't anyway, but it especially won't because of the timing. But it is what it is. And I think we can all understand that it's just like that tournament leading into Worlds is only going to amplify the hype of Worlds because they're going to, have the smoke machines running for all these players.
Right. It is a great precursor event because of the fanfare that comes along with it.
So my next question is, do we see some of the iconic players of the 2010s and maybe early 2020s rise back to high-level prominence, multiple win type seasons? There's a lot of players that could be in that camp. Obviously, we can start with the biggest. Paul McBeth, Paige Pierce, legends of the game, all-time greats, both coming off, Paige got a win, but like a very forgettable season otherwise. Mm-hmm. Paul didn't get a win for the first time in over a decade. But you also have players like Chris Dickerson, James Conrad, like players who were, I was kind of crazy. I was going back and reading a season preview from like 2022, which is really not that long ago. And just like the conversations around players, what we were talking about at the time is so different than it is just 3 years later. So will we see some of those players come back into the top side of the sport? Because it does feel possible, right? You're looking at Ricky, who's not a lot younger than Paul, playing some of the best disc golf of his career. Like, can Paul rediscover that? I think a lot of people are thinking that it's possible. Mm-hmm. And it would certainly be very exciting if we saw some of that, right? That we have this younger generation of players who have gotten so good and are like very competitive week to week. We've kind of watched these older players fall off the pace. Can they get back on the pace in 2025?
If Paige or Paul wins a major this year, like this could be elevated to one of, if not the, like this could jump to the top of the most important storyline in our list. When those kind of players are at the top of their game, the sport is better. I mean, you just have an engagement with these players who have been dominant for so long, and there's obviously a narrative story and an engagement level that comes with these players that is good for the sport. And so I think everybody as a disc golf fan should be rooting for these players to refine and rediscover that form. All right, last storyline, Charlie. This one was tough. There were a handful that we kind of thought about, but it's so hard to even decide. Contract year Kristen. It's hard.
We know about contract year Calvin, but we have yet to see a contract year Kristen.
You're right. What's so interesting about this is I can't decide if it's more interesting if Kristen had contract year after, her major sweep, or if we have contract year now, because Kristen is clearly an incredibly high value player, right? She is going to be an incredible value to the brand of Latitude 64. She's still an incredible player. She's having great seasons, but everything is not as good as compared to her major sweep season, right? Inevitably. And that's like, it's by virtue of like, there's not much more you can do besides sweep the majors and
hard to improve on the greatest season ever recorded.
Right. And so it of course it feels like a regression, an unfair like consideration, probably has a little bit of injury that's like not like playing related injury. So it's not one that we're concerned about, but misses a little bit of time last season. And it's all just a big, what kind of contract do you give Kristen? Does she earn, do you lock her down for 10 years? Do you do a higher value 3-year contract? What do you want if you're Kristen?
Right.
That's a question mark that, I don't know if any of us know the answer to.
Don't you want the legacy contract, right? If you're Kristen?
I think so.
I don't think you want to go back into the negotiating table 3 years from now when you're in your like mid to late 30s.
No, probably not. But I mean, depends on how much money do they offer her?
Right.
What does 10 years for Kristen look like from now? Does so there's just
does Kristen want to wait out? Here's the interesting thing for me, Josh.
Okay.
I feel like there's an incentive on both sides for Latitude and Kristen to get a deal done now, not wait till the end of the year. Get the extension done now. It's working. Like, you're selling discs, you're getting great, plastics that you like. Obviously, Latitude like needs a player of this stature to like continue to be a growing brand in the United States, which I think is important for them. Now they signed Isaac. Isaac is a great player, but it is not the same as Kristen. It's just not. I like, there's a chance Isaac doesn't win a tournament this year. And that's not because he's not good. Mm-hmm. It's just like a reality of MPO and like the relative strengths of the players. Kristen's the most popular player in the sport, basically, behind, I guess, Simon. I forgot fandom survey this year. Like, she's easily the most popular FPO player. Yes. So with that in mind, obviously Latitude wants to get her back. Kristen wants to maximize her value, sure. But if she can come to terms now, then she just takes the pressure off of a season that could be stressful. Like, if you go out on your Kristen and you don't have a great season, even a not great season for her is like 3 wins, right? She's still going to win. It just would be like, she's clearly not the best player this year, right? If that happens, then what, right? Then do you feel like you have lost your marketable window because it's like, oh, like Kristen's in decline. And like, that's the thing, right? If Kristen was 25, she should just play it out and be like, who's going to back up the truck?
Right.
But she's not.
Yep.
And so then it's like, okay, well, how does she feel about it? Right. Really, this is honestly, her agent should be making these decisions, but maybe they're already entertaining offers, because I don't know if you want to wait till the end of the season. I think you maybe want to just get it done now. But if they decide not to get it done now, or for whatever reason, it's going to happen at the end of the year, Kristen has a massive additional motivation to play great this year. And that's a scary prospect.
Yep. Going to be exciting 2025. That's for sure.
Sure is. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll run down the All-Star event which starts on Thursday, because by the time our Thursday show comes out, that will probably be well underway. So we're going to break that down. Very simple this year. Honestly, this is kind of like a slapdash, like, let's do something from the Pro Tour. They're moving the All-Star to the end of the season this year. That will be the real All-Star 2025. This is kind of like a, hey, we're back. Mm-hmm. So we'll break that down. And then we've got our off-season grades for the manufacturers. We'll tell you about that next.
The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. You've already heard about the brand newly redesigned Octothorpe. All new for 2025. And right now, you can get $72 off if you want to join the Quarter Pounder Club. You get the bag and all the accessories at a big discount. So you get an Octothorpe or an Octahall, the Rainfly, a caddy, a 1.5 liter Hydro Pack Contour, travel sack, flight towel, Trash Panda Mini comboed with Pound, and a Quarter Pounder Club patch. So if you are ready to go, take the plunge, get a brand new bag, best of the best, now's the time. Head over to pounddiscgolf.com and join the Quarter Pounder Club Royale with cheese.
Welcome back to the Upshot. All-Star Day, not really weekend. All-Star Thursday, we'll call it that. The appetizer for the 2025 season is a very simple format this year. We've got the All-Stars. There's 12 of them in each division. They paired them up. They're going to play head-to-head, and it's mixed doubles, one round. Win your matchup, win a point. Win the most points, win the thing. Make sense?
Simple enough.
Simple enough. Drafted pairings. We've got, I don't even know if there's like a winning here. I think it's just like mixed doubles for fun. It's kind of what it feels like, which whatever. It can't be worse than the NBA All-Star game. Here's your pairings.
Does Gannon Burr and Rebecca Cox just like walk up and drop their disc off the tee pad and walk off? Is that
God,
Chris Paul style?
They took the top 6 seeds in MPO and paired them with the bottom 6 in FPO and vice versa. So here's your pairings. You've got Gannon Burr and Rebecca Cox, Ricky Wysocki and Haley King, Nicholas Antila and Anniken Sten, Calvin Heimberg and Silva Saarinen, Isaac Robinson and Henna Blomroos, Anthony Barella and Paige Pierce. Over in FPO, you've got Missy Gannon and Joey Buckets, Holland Handley and Chris Dickerson, Owen Scoggins and Ezra Robinson, Evelina Salonen and Paul Macbeth, Ella Hansen and James Proctor. Well, that's a fun matchup for them. Those super friends. And Kat Murch and Matt Oram. So they're going to go 6 seeds, play the 6 seeds, the 5s, the 5s, and so on and so forth. So we'll start at the bottom. We've got Kat Murch and Matt Oram versus Anthony Barella and Paige Pierce. Who you taking?
AB and Paige.
Gotta, right? I mean, come on.
Gotta. Especially, I mean, he won this tournament. He loves the course. Yeah, gotta be AB and Paige.
I think Kat and Matty O are like going to be competitive, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think,
but
and I think like
the
against
name brand is just strong with the ABPP combo.
I also think like against some of like the lineups above them, I think they stand a better shot. But the explosive ability that's going to come out of AB, and especially in double, I think.
All right, Isaac Robinson and Henna Blomroos versus Ella Hansen and James Proctor.
Is this alternate shot or is this best shot?
I don't even know if they said that. Okay. I'm going to check. There has been a very little information about this. It's best shot. Oh. It's best shot front 9, alternate shot back 9. I like that.
I do too. All right, I'm going Isaac and Henna. You ready for my reason?
I'm going Ella and James, but okay. Yes, I'm ready for your reason.
Henna can't 4-putt because Isaac gets to putt after she misses. So at worst, Henna's going to cost you like 4 strokes on the putting green. And at that point, imagine if you could take Henna on FPO where she could only miss 4 putts. Like, you're done. That's it. Like, that's anyway.
I'm going to bank on the chemistry here, and
that's fair. That's fair.
Like vibes. I think they're both they're very balanced competitively. These two teams. I think
Okay, so we split that one.
I think Isaac and Henna have the advantage off the tee, but Ella and James are like, I don't know. It just feels very balanced to me. So I'm just going off vibes.
Yeah.
All right, the fours, Calvin Heimberg and Silva Saarinen versus Evelina and Paul Macbeth. Okay.
This might be the best matchup.
Emotionless kill from Calvin and Silva. They will not smile. They will just, I'm not going to say the word I was going to say. They're going to ruthlessly crush Evelina and Paul. And it will be like a stunning blow to fandom for Evelina and Paul.
I legitimately think this might be like the like I'm excited for this matchup. This one gets me a little hype. I think this one will be fun. It would be fun to watch this one. Oh man. I think it's gonna be Evelina and Paul.
It's a great matchup.
It's so good. And you got Paul playing on his own course. Like, man, I think I give the nod to Evelina and Paul on this one.
It's a tough call. I think I take Calvin and Silva just because of putting as like just the ever slightest edge needed. Fair. But it's very close, and I agree. This might be the best matchup on the board.
I think it might be.
The threes, Nicholas Antila and Anniken Sten versus Owen Scoggins and Ezra Robinson.
Listen, I might be disrespectful here. I gotta go with the dog and the pirate, right?
The dog and the pirate. I agree.
But like Owen is just who I want as my doubles partner always, right? Like I think Owen is just such a great doubles partner to have with you. So yeah.
I think the problem here is that for me, Anniken Sten is just the weakest overall FPO player in the field.
Yeah.
And not to say she's not a good player.
Right.
Like I think everyone else had better seasons. So
and
I think that's just enough to be a tiebreaker for me.
And going back to our discussion, right? If Ezra Robinson beat Nicholas Antila in season performance, like I'm not even saying Nicholas Antila regresses a bunch. If Ezra Robinson levels up and surpasses Nicholas a little bit, that's totally realistic. That could totally happen. And so at that point, Owen is clearly got to take it over Anniken.
To the twos, we've got Ricky and Haley King taking on Holland Handley and Chris Dickerson. What do you think?
Oh man, Ricky Haley might be the best matchup on this board. I don't know who I pick to beat Ricky Haley. I truly think that might be the best combo on the board.
Yeah, well, here's a weird one for you. Haley is not registered for Supreme Flight. Haley's first tournament that she's registered for is Music City Open on April 4th.
Oh my gosh.
So like I don't really know what to make of that. I actually think I'm gonna go Holland and Chris. I just like don't know if I trust that Haley's gonna be ready to play.
Fair.
Talent wise, obviously. That's crazy to me.
I didn't know that. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I saw somebody mention that, and I was like, I can't be right. And then I just went and checked her PDGA page, and it is in fact correct.
She's going to show up, play the All-Stars, not play the main event.
I guess. Unless something changes in the next couple days.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right. The one seats. Missy Gannon and Joey Buckets Anderson versus Gannon Burr and Rebecca Cox. It's all Gannon here.
It's
Burr, that is. I got to take Gannon Burr here and Rebecca Cox.
I think you're right, but alternate shot is going to be so interesting to watch for this group.
Rebecca Cox was awesome last year.
She was awesome last year. So was Joey Buckets, though. He won a tournament.
I know he won a tournament, and he had some really good moments, but I don't know if I would say that he had as relatively good a season as Rebecca, even though Rebecca didn't win.
He won a tournament, and he's good at this course. He's been on coverage and has competed well at this course a couple of times. I think you're disrespecting the Buckets.
That is a great counter argument. Last year at this tournament, he finished 9th. Don't get me wrong, he had a good season. He was just swingy.
He's
a great player.
He is swingy. I expect him on an upswing at this event.
Okay, I accept. So you're going with Missy and Buckets?
Oh, well, don't make me put pen to paper, man. I was just saying I don't know if it's quite as clear cut as you made it sound.
Hey, don't disrespect them like that, but I'm still going with Gannon Burr.
You know what? Fine. Give it to me. I will stand. Gosh, these kind of takes get me in trouble so often. Give me Missy Gannon and Joey Buckets.
This will be fun because it's basically a structured practice round for these players.
Yeah.
I think it will be fun. Even though it's like very much we got to do something.
Right. Yeah, it will be fun.
All right. Our final segment for today, we are grading the off-season for manufacturers. And let's just set some ground rules so that everybody understands what's going on. We are not grading their team overall. Mm-hmm. We are grading their off-season. That means players signed, players not re-signed, changes available based on current contracts. Mm-hmm. So that's the baseline. We are grading this based on overall, it's not necessarily competitiveness, though that's obviously an element here, but this is like a marketability.
Value.
We're talking about, yes, value to the company.
Yes.
Not just like strictly who got better on like overall DGPT standings.
Right.
So I think that's, those are going to be very correlated, but they're not exactly the same.
Right.
So with that in mind, I think we should go ahead and jump in. We got the gamut this year. Josh and I both made our own grades, and then we aggregated them, rounding up into a single aggregate. So we have everything from A+ to F.
Yep.
So we really got the whole thing going on this year. We're going to start with the Fs, and we're going to work our way up to the lone A+. So let's do it. We start with Clash. Josh and I both handing out an F as Clash discs. They didn't have much, but they now have basically nothing. And it did feel like this is a year where the tide went out for some of the smaller brands in the sponsorship market.
What's especially interesting is like there were some mid-level players that became available, and if you wanted to stay in the sponsorship game, there was opportunities to do so for a cheap cost, and Clash chose not to do so, and that earns an F.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it is what it is. I mean, they maybe just suddenly didn't have the marketing budget anymore. I mean, Clash came in with a massive splash. They were constantly advertising on DGN.
Yep.
They signed some notable players, but it's it's not an F I love to give out, because I do think I grade smaller brands on a little bit of a curve, because it's like they're not going to sign Ricky. Like, it's not reasonable to expect that.
Right.
But to have basically nobody is painful.
Sign anybody, and you get like a C, right? Like,
Josh, what's next?
Another small brand, F grades across the board, goes to Lone Star. Another company that just offloaded everybody and made no signings. It's an interesting question as to, like, are they going to try and get back in the sponsorship game? Are they biding their time for a year? Are they just going to try and use the amateur side to blitz marketing and not focus on the pro side nearly as much? Because listen, even though despite all the issues that Lone Star has had, there's still a ton of people in my disc golf community that throw at least one Lone Star disc, because there are a ton of people who have those amateur sponsorships, and they get carried at local shops. They, like, as much as we, kind of joked about everybody and literally the dog made it onto the team, it's worked, and it seems to have been a better strategy than the pro side. So That no pro signings has to earn an F on that side. It's gonna be interesting to see if that's their chosen strategy moving forward, or if that's just a year they're gonna wait and bide their time.
I mean, it was a messy offseason too. Like, I actually think they maybe should get an F minus. Like they had the worst offseason.
Definitely.
Right? Ugly stuff going on in the middle of the year with the van and they Chandler Kramer, and they completely bungled the whole thing from start to finish. Yep. Remember back at the beginning when they came into the scene? Who did they sign? They signed Nico.
And
what?
Emerson Keith.
And Chandler Kramer, Emerson Keith, like unlikable players. Yeah. Sorry to say it. It's like some of those guys are very good disc golfers, but they just have not been particularly likable players. And now they're all gone. And it's like, is that maybe addition by subtraction? Like, I think you could make a case that like losing all this baggage is actually going to like help them rebuild from a better spot.
I completely
as opposed to having Nico be your brand ambassador.
The problem is that they all kind of went out in a lot of fireworks.
It was so brutal.
It was bad.
And like they should have tried to re-sign Bob Burridge.
Right.
Because like you have him. He's a strong up-and-coming player. He's not, he can't be that expensive of a signing.
Yep.
But they didn't. So it's an F. All right. We move to Prodigy. Final grade, aggregated D. I went D minus. Josh went D. We round up. Look, there's no way around it. It was an ugly offseason, and we knew it was going to be. Mm-hmm. The Robinson brothers have been signaling for months that they were gone. And it's been a long, slow decline, and they just are now not particularly relevant in the pro sponsorship side of the game. And Prodigy has had a very good track record of surprising us, and perhaps they can pull it off again because they did sign some players. There's a reason they didn't get enough. Gavin Rathbun is a great signing, one of my favorite of the offseason. They signed Jake Hebenheimer. They kind of lose everyone else. They still have Luke Humphreys. If Gavin Rathbun has a great year, maybe that keeps people interested in Prodigy. Maybe they do what they've done for years, which is like find the next generation players who are going to be very good. So, I'm not going to put them in the ground and bury them 6 feet under because people have done that time and time again, and they've been wrong over and over again. But this was a tough offseason.
Here's the big issue. I wanted to give Prodigy a higher grade because I am super high on the Gavin Rathbun pick. I love it. I love the Gavin Rathbun signing. I've liked Gavin Rathbun for a while. I think he's a super marketable player. He's well liked. I hear nothing but good things about him, and he's a great fit. And so I want to give them a better grade. But the way that now, first off, losing guys like Isaac and Ezra always going to be tough. But the way that they left, where like you said, they are posturing that they're going to be leaving forever. That's an issue. That is a problem. And here's what the biggest issue is for me. Will, in our interview, talked about how, we can't pay the big guys. We like to sign, the younger talent, the younger MPO players. We build them up, and then, we can't sign them when they command the big contract. Okay, that's fine, right? If you have a fine opportunity to go out, but what you need to do is you can't have these young players going, oh, they promised me X, Y, and Z. I wanted X, Y, and Z, and I never got it. What you need to do is you need to become the brand where young players go to start their careers. You build a 3-year track record or a 5-year track record where you have them sign a 5-year deal with an opt-out period at 2, and you promise them these brand things. They're going to get this disc run. They're going to get, this airtime. This is the marketing campaign you're going to do. All these things that don't put them on socials. Have them be a part of things.
I mean, we joked that Discraft did more for Ezra Robinson in their launch video than Prodigy did in all the years he was with them.
And if you did a 5-year, we set you up for success, as a young player, you'd sell a ton of discs, you'd get cheap contracts, people would love you, and then you'd lose them once they become, Isaac Robinson, big and famous, right? And that's okay. And you wish them the best, you do a big send-off ceremony, and then you welcome in the next class of the up-and-comers. And you make it a big fanfare thing, and there's a way to do this.
And your literal brand name is Prodigy.
Yeah. There's a way to do this, and unfortunately they didn't do it the right way, and as a result, Prodigy has to get a D. Listen, it is not though because they lost the players. It is the fashion in which they lose them, and there's a way that Prodigy could change that and turn that around for success if they did it right.
I also think it's that they lost the players. I mean, sure, okay, you don't want to sign Isaac, well, you could sign Ezra.
You could have signed Ezra. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
I don't know. But you're totally right. I mean, you just gave them free consulting.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Give me a call. I'm happy. I could be a PRN consultant.
Who's next, Josh?
Yeah. Next up, another team lost a player really. Dynamic Discs. Charlie, you award a D-. I award a D+, leaves us with a D flat. And no way around it. Here's losing Ricky is tough. Losing the second best player in the world right now is going to be.
And you
tough.
didn't even lose him in a free agency period.
Right.
You lost him when he was under contract.
Yes. I think if someone were to say there is a case to be made that Dynamic Discs deserves to be in the C categories, I would hear that out. Because and there's a guy who gave him a D+, right? A C-, C even. I could hear the argument, and here's why. Evan Smith. I mean, Charlie, you are the conductor of the Evan Smith train.
I'm on the hype train.
You're on the hype train. We're excited for Evan Smith at Dynamic Discs. Evan Smith is excited about Evan Smith at Dynamic Discs. It's a great signing to take over in that place. The other thing is, I get you're losing, the second best player, but if you're losing money, and it's not worth having the second best player in the world if that second best player in the world is not making you money. And so if that was the case and you shed a net loss on your books, can you fault them? Can you really go after them?
You can fault them. Yes, you can fault them.
Well, you can fault them for a bad deal to start.
Their job is to market their players and sell frisbees.
Fair. And that's why they have a D.
Exactly. I mean, to me, they got upgraded from F to D- because of Evan Smith signing.
Sure.
But you have to just recognize that, as hyped as I am about Evan Smith, it's still more speculative than it is reality that he's going to become a top level player. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? He's already top 10 in the world in ratings. So he is very, very good. But it's not good enough to play at the 1040 all the time. You're going to be good. You're going to finish top 10 on a regular basis, but you may never win. So I need to see that he can actually win and become a name, because it's shocking how little people know him. But I think that's not just because he was kind of an obscure Clash deal or something like that. I think it's also in part because he has a very mix-upable name, as we've discussed many times. But it's also just that he's not getting a lot of face time on interviews. He's not getting a lot of face time on lead cards at tournaments. That stuff matters. And so there's a reason he's signing to DD and not a bigger company. It's because he doesn't have that stuff yet. So you're betting on the future. And I do think it's a great bet on the future. And I like it for that reason. So I can hear you out. But at the end of the day, it was a brutal offseason for DD in every other way. It's been ugly. We got people we got former employees, going on social media on Reddit and airing out all the dirty laundry. House of Disc down bad. It was bad. It was ugly. And losing Ricky, you cannot spin it to be a good thing. Yes, at the end of the day, they're making a business decision about it. But is it because Ricky's not worth $1 million a year? possibly, maybe in this environment especially, but it's also because they made a ton of missteps and they failed to take advantage of Ricky. And like already Discraft is doing such a better job. And that's going to be a broken record story because Discraft seems to be getting them. And it's not even like they're doing anything crazy. They're like, oh, how about we make a Raptor logo? Like, yeah, that seems smart. You know, we should, you don't want to just have Saki Bomb on everything. Yeah. Like, I kind of want to believe that like Ricky went into the warehouse and he was like, hey guys, like, what are we going to do for my signature disc? And they slapped him across the face and they said, get that Saki Bomb shit out of here.
They literally yanked the chain off of his neck.
Take the chain.
And threw it across the warehouse. They're like, shut up.
But like Dinosaur Raptor Ricky is such a better selling point. It's like already going better.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It is very possible that it's just he's not worth $1 million a year. So like it's a rational choice from DD. But you know, they didn't do a good job over the preceding 3 years when maybe he was worth that.
Correct. And that's
maybe he was never worth it. But I don't know. I just think like you have to put in the marketing work to support the players that you have on your team.
And
it's
hence
a two-way street.
Agreed. And that is why they have the D.
Okay. We move to infinite discs. I give a C, Josh gives a C, so it's a C all around. I don't know. They mostly retained the players that were kind of attached to them already. They added Joel Freeman and Nathan Queen. Just very mid.
Yeah.
I mean, Infinite's smart. They're just like you don't have a sponsor? Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
And like,
it's
a good strategy for a retail company that can just throw some stamps on discs, no problem.
So easy. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Gateway. Charlie, you give him a B. I give him a C. This is actually, I think, our biggest gap. Yeah, it is. This is our biggest gap here. B, C plus is what we end with. Gateway signs Chandler Kramer is the move here.
Let me justify my B.
Please do, because this is, I mean, you're grading on a curve here. That's for sure.
Oh, yes. but that's true. I mean, it's just true. I'm not trying to deny that.
Yeah.
Gateway goes from 0 to 1.
Yep.
Can you name a Gateway sponsored player from before this year?
Like who is active?
Yes.
I think Nico is still, isn't he?
I don't think so. I mean, no? his family ties to Gateway, I think, but I don't think he's actually throwing Gateway right now.
Okay, I thought he usually.
I don't know. I don't know. There's always some Gateway Nico stuff going on.
Okay. Anyway,
but he was not sponsored by them last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the two together. But I see. This your
is
point.
my point.
Yeah, I see your point.
There is no associated pros with Gateway.
Yep.
Now there are.
Okay.
And Chandler Kramer is a pretty good player. I just think Gateway having someone helps them. It's like presence. Like how many players who are new have never heard of Gateway?
A lot.
Like if you go to the random new player on the course and you're like, hey, you ever putt with a wizard? Like, what's a wizard? Is that a latitude disc? Or I guess it would be a West Side disc, right? With their naming conventions. Is that a West Side disc?
Yeah.
Like, they may have even never heard of Gateway.
Yeah.
But this is a classic brand and they make a great putter. I have no idea about the rest of their discs, but that's what signing a player like Chandler Kramer could do for them. If we watch Chandler Kramer throw a 500-foot forehand, we're going to be like, whoa. That's why I give him a B.
Okay. I see your point. Let me offer the C here. You're right. 0 to 1 automatically gets him the average to me, right? Number one, Chandler Kramer's like all involved in this Lone Star drama that came in the offseason. So and I don't even think that's his fault necessarily. But there's other players that I think you could have gone for that could have given you that opportunity. But number two, Chandler Kramer is not like you're right. A 500-foot forehand is incredible. Guess what?
I don't actually know if he can throw it that far.
No, but I see really like massive forehand, right? Like Wow, Chandler Kramer throws so far. I need to go putt with a wizard. Like that's the wrong person. You need to get Owen Scoggins throwing the wizard. You need to get and Owen is a bad example, but you need to find a person who putts really, really well and use the wizards. I actually think Gateway would be better served with a Lone Star style of approach with the amateur side, where they say Gateway sponsorship, we'll give you a polo, 2 wizards, or a pack of 5 wizards, and you are sponsored, and all we ask is that you putt with wizards. And that's it. And we'll cover we'll give you a fresh pack of wizards every season in whatever plastic you want. And you blitz the market with Gateway sponsored.
So you want them to triple down into their like most notable disc.
Yeah, can you name one other disc of Gateway?
No, I can't.
I can't either.
I cannot.
I can't either. The Wizard is the only thing that's hanging around. If Gateway wants to stay like in it and keep going, yeah, they should triple down on the Wizard. And here's the thing: if people putt with the Wizard and find a plastic, what?
Whatever happened to EV7?
That's Drew Gibson's putting brand, right?
No. Is Drew doing? Is he still using those? Maybe.
I think so.
I don't know if he is or not. Does he got the Penrose? I just don't like. I haven't heard about them in like over a year.
But anyway, that's the point, right? Like, Gateway. Say you got to wear a Gateway hat or jersey at least one round of every tournament you play, and you putt with Wizards. We'll keep you with a fresh pack of Wizards every year, every season you're sponsored by us.
It makes sense to me.
And you could probably sell a bunch of Wizards that way, right? That just seems like a better value to me. I just don't know what Chandler Kramer. If like that, what Chandler B requires a player who I think elevates it above a warm body, and I just think that Chandler Kramer is a warm body.
Fair enough. What's next, Josh?
Yeah, next up, West Side. You give him a C. I give him a C plus. Aggregate is a C plus. We round up. They drop Sayananda, add Haiti Lina. Listen, C is a warm body in FPO, like a good player. I think Heidi Lena is a better FPO player. She tours more. She's more noticeable. She's like pretty decent. And so I think it's a slight upgrade above Sayananda. So I give him just slightly above average.
I do too. I think Sai maybe like has a little bit more personality and pop like on camera, but Sai didn't play very much this year.
No, she didn't play enough.
You're kind of still riding the fumes of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like it. Overall, I mean, I don't think this really is like a big move either way, but Westside clearly is keeping it pretty skinny and like maybe leaning into European market with a Lina signing.
Yep.
Okay. Castoplast got another House of Discs. By the way, we're going to give an aggregate House of Discs grade. We will get to that. Castoplast. I gave a C plus. Josh gives a B. That rounds to a B minus. They basically re-signed Jesse Nieminen for 3 years. That's about it. Can you tell me why you get a B?
Yeah, I'll tell you why I give him a B.
Seems a little high.
I maybe a B minus is fair, but it still would come out to the aggregate of a B minus. I think that's right about where it probably should be. And as I think about it, Jesse Nieminen he just won a Pro Tour event. There are some teams on here that do not have Pro Tour event winners on them. And so when you can get a Pro Tour event winner, that's a big deal. And the other part that I think is important is like Castoplast has done a nice job of picking up niche players but like kind of popular niche players, right? Joey Buckets, ton of personality, like definitely punches above his weight class in terms of marketing. And now I think he's catching up for sure. In terms of that, but definitely, I think a great fit. Joseph Berg, Jesse Nieminen. I mean, they are fun, popular players that are well liked, and having a strong European who does well on the European side with a European brand, I think that's actually a pretty big signing for Castoplast. Obviously, they're not going to swing any further, and so I think getting your right guys and just keeping them locked down deserves some credit and actually gets a higher nod, I think, than it would otherwise. So that's where I give it for Castoplast.
All right. This doesn't do that much for me. But on the other hand, re-signing somebody is still a move. It means something.
Yeah.
Let's go. We get into the heavy hitters side of things here.
Mm-hmm.
Innova. Aggregate B-. I gave a C. Josh gave a B. I'll go first. Besides re-signing Cap merch, Innova did not do much besides drop people this offseason. And they have a lot of people signed. And like, I'm not necessarily like, if you want to think about legacy, right? Like, again, we're talking about what was available to them this offseason. So some of these folks are already signed, right? The biggest stars, you know, Calvin and Nate Sexton and Evelina and Hannah, they're already under contract.
Yep.
So, you know, if we were grading their team overall, it would be a different story. But for their offseason, you know, they added Emily Weatherman. I like the move. But they have a lot of players who really are just like no longer relevant players on tour. They're too old. And I don't know, maybe Innova sees that there's like value in having those players around and on like their higher tier sponsorship contract because like they're appealing to the 40 plus market. But remember, they also lost Ken Climo this offseason to Discraft. Brutal. I have to give them a C. I mean, I think you could go lower, but Innova still just like has so many players that like they're still like have lots of relevant people. And I think there's an argument to be made that losing Climo to Discraft makes them deserve an F. I think you could make a case. But I don't know. I see it more as like a middle ground thing, but it was not a good offseason for Innova in my opinion. Even if it made like financial overall dollars and cents to like drop some of the players they dropped, I'm not sure that I like what is their strategy right now? Because once upon a time, their strategy was to like have all the good players, right. And they're starting to lose out on that strategy to other companies.
All right, I'm gonna preface this with I completely forgot about the Ken Climo thing when I did these rankings because I'm thinking primarily of like active players, right? And so I just didn't even think.
You gonna make a revision?
I probably will need to make a revision. First, let me tell you why I gave a B without the Climo thing.
Okay.
Cap merch was one of, if not the top available FPO free agent.
Yeah, it was like her.
And they kept her.
Ella Hansen.
They signed out Emily Weatherman.
Like
young, promising player.
Silva?
Oh, Silva probably was. So probably Silva, then Cap merch. But I mean, Cap merch might arguably be more proven. You know, like Silva's won a lot of European events, but Cat's won on the US side too. So I think the Cap merch re-signing is huge. She's a competitive player that I think Innova's got to be happy to keep. Emily Weatherman's another young, upcoming, just superstar player that I think is another great addition. And I don't have an issue at all with Innova going through and thinning out their team. I think it makes complete financial sense. What is Joel Freeman bringing you? Right? He is one of the least liked players on tour. You've been paying him for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And there's no way he is returning that value anymore. And they kept the guys, like Greg Barsby still has a contract because Greg Barsby is incredibly popular and his discs sell well. They have players still.
Do they?
Like
Maybe. Continue. I'll give my thoughts.
The Greg Barsby, the old heads that I talk to all still throw and buy Greg Barsby Eagles all the time. And so they maintain, but here's the other part. And I liked the people that they intentionally kind of cut. I liked the signings. There's another one though. They not only lost Climo, they lost Germ as well, and I forgot about that too.
Yep,
that's tough. I probably revise it to a C as well because of that.
All right, they fall down. Behind
you're right. I just completely spaced on those two. Like on the competitive side, the competitive team, I think the decisions they made were all perfect. But you lose two of the really important legacy players, and you got to suffer for that.
I don't see the strategy right now from Innova.
And that's, I see your point.
Are they going to just keep doing this, like re-signing all these players who are in their 40s? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
They don't feel like like they are going to have to make some serious moves when some of these contracts come due. Because some of their other contracts, Evelina and Henna and Double G and Nate are all up for contracts at the end of this season. Like, let's say they let Double G walk. I'm not saying they will, but maybe they do. They have to re-sign Nate Sexton, right? Like that's a must.
Nate Sexton will get re-signed.
Like, I don't see the plan right now. It feels like they kind of did the same thing, but like cut some of the players where they normally would sort of like sign everyone. Now they're like being a little more selective, but I still just don't really see a coherent, like their top team is not very good. They have a couple of really good players on their top team, but then they have a bunch of people who were good 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
I hear you.
It just doesn't make sense to me. But then they also lose the best players that were good 10 to 20 years ago.
Right.
I'm confused.
Let me offer you.
I feel like I'm being generous.
Let me offer you the counterpoint here. They have a top 5 MPO player.
I understand that.
They have a top 5 FPO player. They have the second most popular MPO player. They have, what, is it the second most popular FPO player? In Owen Scoggins?
Right there, yeah, I think so.
Right? So I hear what you're saying, but like I just think that they still have, like, they're covering all their bases in a way that they have disc movers, they have competitive teams that are always on coverage. They won Worlds last year. If Calvin could win a major, which, you know, that's a big if. And I hear you, this floundering point probably goes to the point that they have nobody who can win an MPO major right now. But if Calvin could win a major, like, tell me what they're missing.
I just look at what Discraft's doing, and I see them outfoxing Innova at their own game.
And you're right. You're right about that.
We'll get to it. You're
right about that.
Okay, let's continue. DGA, I gave a B-. Josh gave a B. Just to kind of note some of the things they did this offseason. They re-signed. I got to make sure I get these right. Okay, yeah. They re-signed Ellie Mittling. They re-signed Andrew Marweed, Andrew Miranda, Cole Radallen, Sullivan Tipton. So they basically re-signed most of their notable players. And for me, that's good enough for something in the B range. I went B-. They didn't really add anybody new, but they have some really exciting young talent. And I just think that they've kind of established themselves as an actual player in the sponsorship world, above a bunch of other brands that feel like they're on a similar tier with.
You can copy and paste what I'm about to say here for our next team that's going to be up. When you re-sign a bunch of young players who probably had compelling offers elsewhere, or maybe had compelling offers elsewhere, I think that is a win. You know, if they are re-signing, if it's just Katrina Allen, for example, that they're re-signing, that's one thing. But Ellie Middling, Cole Radallen, Andrew Murata, Andrew Marweed, like those are still like young players who you can see potential, and you could see someone like Prodigy, like Clash, like, you know, exactly. West Side, like there are other teams that could make a move. A Discraft could make a move.
Yep.
And to keep those players is a big deal. And so I give them a B.
We moved to Discmania. I gave a B-. Josh gave a B. They retain Ella Hansen and Casey White. Re-signed both of those players, who I think were like interesting free agents this offseason.
Copy paste. Yep.
Yeah. I don't really have a lot to say more about it. They already like are in a good spot with Gannon, of course. So like they're not going to have the money to make a big move, but they just like kept the players who they should have kept.
You resign talented free agents, you get a B. You deserve it. So,
all right. We move to Latitude 64. I gave a B. Josh gave a B plus. They signed Isaac. Is that enough for an A? Neither of us said so. What kept you from giving an A?
It actually had nothing to do with Isaac. The only reason they didn't get an A for me is because they didn't get the Kristen deal done a year early. Like, the only way Latitude gets an A for me is if they finish it up before she ever gets even close to sniffing free agency. That didn't happen. They get a B plus. They signed the best available free agent, and bring in a world champion who I think is going to pair really nicely with Kristen and personality and marketing. That's great. But your star player is still Kristen Tatar, and I think that you probably should have. Lat, you're right. Kristen Lat. I think trying
to get everybody in the rhythm.
Yep, you're right. I've done pretty well about it too this offseason. I just spaced right there, so thank you. I mean, that's how you get an A if you're Latitude. You need to re-sign Kristen.
By the way, the last name I've been working on trying to figure out how to pronounce it exactly. Listen to Silver say it a bunch of times. It sounds a little more like let to me than lat.
Okay.
Lat is also acceptable. Lot, which is what a lot of us have been saying for a long time, is wrong.
That is wrong.
So you can go with lat, or you can go with let.
Okay.
I kind of like lat only because Latitude 64. I think they should make a Latitude 64 disc with LATT.
With two T's. That's fun.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool.
Yeah. I go B just because they also re-signed Rebecca Cox, which I really like that move.
Good signing.
I just feel like there's still, for a premium brand, they're not doing enough. And this is a great on the curve situation, right? If a small brand signed Isaac, it's an A or an A plus. But they're kind of bigger than that, and I think it's a good move. But he might be the best competitive free agent, but the best free agent was Anthony Barella.
Okay, you're right.
From a brand standpoint, in my opinion.
You're right
so,
about that.
I still think it's good. I maybe should have given them a B plus. It was a good offseason. It just wasn't like it didn't blow me away because I just still think that they need to do more.
Here's the other thing too, Charlie, is like you gave Discmania DGA B minuses. I gave them Bs. So like relative to our scale, yes. You're right. I think it makes sense. We're grading it in the same spot basically. We just started from different starting points.
We go to MVP. I gave my first A. Josh gives an A minus. It's an aggregate A. Big signings are Jeremy Colling, Silva Sarnen, and then Mauri Vilman getting added. To me, this is just like a pretty much perfectly executed offseason. For the strategy that I feel like we're seeing MVP use. And that strategy seems to be, let's just sign popular players. Let's not sign too many players. Let's just sign really popular players. Yeah. How complicated is this? Like, MVP's kicking everyone's ass right now by innovating in the plastic department and making some of the most exciting discs. Shout out to Rob, who sent Josh and I a tempo. Did you get yours, Josh?
I did. Oh my gosh. It's actually sitting on my desk right next to me. It's a pretty disc.
It is a pretty disc. Like, so they have that going, and they're using players to like combo the hype of the plastic in a perfect way. And it's just like a very simple offseason. Yep. It's re-sign Silva, add Germ, and I think they added Mauri Vilman. That wasn't a re-sign.
Right.
And Mauri could be the biggest star in Europe. That's possible.
Yep.
Like, he is that good. He is very good. He could have the best MPO European season this year. I'm not going to count on that because I think he's not playing enough in the U.S. for that really to be a reality. And, Nicholas is still A1. But he's very good. And he's been good for like 2 years. It's just, to me, this is just like perfect execution of the offseason.
Yes, I agree. I think it's exactly what they should be doing. And what you're going to see as well of the next one, I think this goes back to where we started and our starting points. I gave the top team an A, and then this gets second place, right? The MVP was clearly the second place team in this offseason, without a doubt about it. But
let's
quit beating around the bush here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to come as any surprise. Josh gave an A. I gave an A+. I don't think I've ever given an A+ in this exercise over the years. And that goes to Discraft.
Yeah.
First things first, they re-signed AB. That was the first job.
Yes.
They got it done.
Yes.
Okay. Already it was a good offseason.
That's an A offseason right there.
Right. It might be. Next. Oh, wow. They added Ken Climo. They took Ken Climo from Innova, Choice of Champions, and now he has his own brand inside of Discraft. That is a power move. We've talked plenty about the move. I think there's risk there, but it is still a mega move. Mm-hmm. And then they had Ricky, and then they sign everyone else that was on their team and renew everyone's contract in a year where other people are cutting.
Don't forget Ezra.
Look. Exactly. And they had Ezra.
Yeah.
It was a massive offseason for Discraft. I mean, they backed the truck up.
Yeah, they did.
And it remains to be seen whether that's the right strategy, but from like an overall like impact on the market standpoint, you cannot do better. You cannot do better. I can see an argument for MVP being more efficient, a little more clinical.
Yes.
A little more targeted, and that being a better overall strategy. But from a straight up market share, sales, hype, how can you do better than what Discraft did this offseason?
Can't.
Multiple major champions, up and comers, best of it, re-sign everyone. It was unbelievable.
A+.
It's hard to believe, actually, that they did all this.
A+, A, S tier, 100%, MVP, most valuable. We'll go MVM, most valuable manufacturer. You name it. Like they, however you label it, Discraft won. And when we started, because we did this exercise separate first, it was like the first thing I did, pen to paper, Discraft. Like at the top, I didn't even have rankings down. Discraft is the first brand I write down because they won the offseason. And there are some years that we have winners, and there are some years that we're like, yeah, there were a couple good ones, some weird ones. This year it is like, congratulations, take your trophy, Discraft, and enjoy it because
the thing is, it feels like MVP and Discraft have been having the best off seasons for like 2 or 3 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
except
I feel like
what
we're seeing them climb.
Except Innova like getting Calvin on the 5-year deal, like.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at like what else happened that offseason because that was a crazy one, right? But yeah, I mean, obviously huge. The GOAT offseason of all time is Discraft signing Macbeth. Like,
yeah.
The delta between where Discraft was and now where they're in the position to do what they did this offseason is all literally because of Macbeth.
1,000%. Yeah.
So very interesting year. And I think that there's some, there's a little bit of risk, but I kind of like that Discraft zigged when others were zagging and like cutting because it could pay off if we see a bounce back trend year.
Yep. And they probably got everyone on deals cheaper than they would have a year ago or next year possibly.
Maybe.
So, yeah.
Maybe.
Guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's an interesting offseason. So a couple of strong scores and a couple of tough years as well. And we're getting ready for the 2025 season. We'll be back with you on Thursday. We will break down the Supreme Flight Open and get you ready for the tournament. Make our first official picks of the year. Get ready to make your picks as well. It's time to sign up for an Ulti-World Disc Golf subscription. Join the Discord. Get all of our subscriber bonus segments and Rapid Reacts, which, by the way, is coming on Sunday.
Rapid Reacts on Sunday, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. So you can listen live in the Discord to those or get them in your in a private podcast feed if you don't have time to listen to it live. And you can also participate in our Upshot picks contest every single week and try to beat me and Josh. I was king last year.
You were. You
I
went on that run, the prophecy run.
Dozens of people. I had this streak of what? It was like 4 tournaments in a row where I picked the winners.
Winners and like 2 perfect podiums in there too.
I was on fire.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So I'm going to try to run it back, and you can compete. You can check out the website if you go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks. So join up. Go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Become a subscriber. It's less than $4 a month. And hang out with us in the Rapid Reacts and in the Discord. It's an awesome place to talk disc golf. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you Thursday, and we'll get some All-Star action as well right here on the Upshot.